Coming up today on David versus Goliath. Just because you currently have a job doesn't mean you can't be building your dream on the side. I think that's very, 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 very important. It'll have duct tape, shrink wrap, and whatever it takes, super glue.
Welcome to today's episode of David versus Goliath, a podcast dedicated to helping small businesses leverage technology to not only help them compete against their large competitors, but win. Your host is currently the CEO of Anthem Business Software, a three-time Inc. 500 recipient, and a serial entrepreneur with a passion to help small businesses everywhere find, serve, and keep more customers profitably. Please join me in welcoming your host, Adam DeGrade.
Hey everyone, it's Adam DeGrade from the David versus Goliath podcast. So excited to be with you here today. It's our first full-length interview here in January of 2023. And today's episode is brought to you by AutomateMySocial.com, where if you're a small business, you can automate 90 to 100% of all your social media and never have to think about it again. Now, I know what you're saying. What about fresh content? Is this AI written content? What about the human element? All these things that are involved and all these questions that go on our minds as a business owner. Well, let me just tell you this. We had a recent business just sign up, save $48,000 to $50,000 a year, plus benefits and paid time off, because they were able to replace several people and several businesses that they were using to actually do their social media with one software. And they saved over $50,000 a year and they get better results. That's a fact. Go check it out today at AutomateMySocial.com. We've got Scott Lebeau. I believe I'm pronouncing that properly. Let me just make sure I've got it. I think so. Yes, I do have it right. Scott Lebeau from One Source Direct. This should be a very awesome interview today, and it's going to be great. Visit us online at davidvsgoliathpodcast.com to apply to be on the podcast and subscribe to get information in regards to the podcast. Well, with no further ado, in 2023, here we go. Scott, you're welcome to the David versus Goliath podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm hoping that I'm probably more of a David versus Goliath, but it's okay.
That's right. Most people don't want to be Goliath in the story because he ends up decapitated and without a head, which is definitely a challenge. So I love talking about people's businesses, as you know. If you've seen the podcast, I love learning about the stories behind people. I also like learning stories about themselves as well, too. So really quickly, give the watchers and listeners an overview of One Source Direct and what it does, and then I want to switch gears quick to talk about work history.
It really tries to make it so the field is no longer David versus Goliath. It's more of like two Davids, where they're of equal size. They compete on a very level playing field, and it was built with the help of David, with the goal of providing for David and not Goliath. And by that, I mean, we've actually built this with the help of small business owners that are friends, former customers of mine. And we've taken the approach from their perspective altogether, and not looking at this from being driven by a board of directors by a profit margin. It's about building an effective tool for them.
Yeah. One of the things, and I think for the watchers and listeners, what I gathered, and tell me if I'm describing it incorrectly, but basically, you're trying to connect micro businesses with other businesses or other individuals that need services. And so it gives them the ability to compete in a realm they may not have necessarily been able to compete in before. Because if somebody's looking for, let's say, internet marketing, for example, and they go, I need a website and SEO, who can help me? And there's all these micro businesses that are out there. They can go there, be a part of One Source Direct, and they can respond to the requests and the needs of the potential buyer. And those leads come into the potential buyer, and they can respond to those opportunities. So you're trying to create a network of micro businesses and people who need their services in a different way. Am I stating that correctly?
Yeah, that's very close, in fact. And, we've given them a couple different ways to communicate. It's like you mentioned, it's the needs and leads, but think about how many small businesses that have a newsletter that literally sits on a website waiting for someone to find it. This is a way for them to push that out to other users without that user having to actually find their website.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. If they're a part of your network, you could promote your services and offerings.
Yes.
Even if you don't have a website, even if you don't have a big social media presence. That's kind of the gist that I was getting.
Right. No, it's very true. I mean, when you think about the number of websites that never even get looked at in a given month, it's like over 90% never have an organic hit. Because really the priority is to get to page one, and page one is not a cheap proposition by any stretch of the imagination. So again, if I have a need and, looking for internet marketing and you can help, once I submit that need, if our geographic areas line up, in terms of what I'm looking for and what you service, you automatically get it. There's no filters that go in other than who you are, what you do, and where you're located. That's it.
I love it. It's one of those things when I saw it come through and I looked at it, it's like you really are trying to help the small guy get a chance to compete. And then who knows, maybe eventually become a big guy and be able to afford a company like Anthem Software, who's one of our corporate sponsors. These guys can help you get on page one. But, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, if we get to that point, we've already identified 6 charities that we look to give back to. So our goal would be to find ways to help other small businesses, and like whether it's through an entrepreneur group or anything like that we can help in our area, or even across the country or across the globe. It doesn't matter once we get going.
And I think watchers and listeners of the Dave vs. Goliath podcast, they love also stories about how people start their own businesses, right? We've all had a work history in the past, and we've all learned from those experiences. Scott, in your world, what was the most difficult job you've ever done, and why?
Actually walking into a business to tell them that they're shut down, and some of my peers were surprised that I've actually, I didn't do it via phone. I didn't do it via texting or messaging or anything like that. It's a situation whereby I literally sat across from a business owner probably 6 or 7 times to try to help them right their ship and get everything going and work with them on a plan. And, when you finally go in and tell them that, you can't help them anymore. And this is somebody that worked in the business for 15 years. They were working 12 to 16 hours a day.
Sure.
And when you walk in and do that, it's a very humbling experience. But even in that situation, I felt that that's a person that needed, respect. And if I would have just gone in and done it via phone or an email, I just didn't think that was right. And that's probably been the toughest thing I've ever had to do.
I can't even imagine. So basically, if I'm getting you correctly, one of your previous jobs that you had, your role was to assist in either a franchise or a different location, and you'd go in, you'd try to help them. And if they weren't following it or they weren't able to get to a place where they need to get to, your job was to say, this location's closing.
Well, actually, they were loan customers of mine. So there are people we built relationships up with. So, it's very similar to what you described. But yeah, it's, not that it's ever easy, but I think, the fact that we built a relationship up and understood that what we were trying to do was I was trying to work with them as best I could within the parameters that we have. Yeah. In some weird way.
What was the biggest lesson you learned from that? I would imagine there's some people that broke down, some people that got angry. What was the thing that you personally took from that experience that has helped you currently in your new experience of starting One Source Direct?
I think part of it is just the respect for that small business owner, because they don't have the resources to invest in marketing. It's like a catch-22. I need marketing. I need money to go out to market to get customers, but I need customers to get money. It's like this vicious cycle that they get caught in.
It's funny you say that too, man, because I was just working this is a great story, by the way. I was just working a convention, and I work conventions with my new business. I love, in early stages of my businesses, Scott, I love going in and pressing flesh and being a sales guy on the floor and listening to the potential prospects. And I'm not going to name the person who probably had this exact conversation at least a half a dozen times. So this business comes to us. They say, what do you do? We tell them what we do. And we drive leads, drive conversion, drive, SEO, drive email, drive traffic, convert things, to help you track it, all these amazing things. And you get to the end and the guy goes, well, historically our business is primarily a referral based business, and we don't really, get a lot of internet leads. And I'd say to him, well, why would you expect to?
Right.
And they look at me like, well, what do you mean? Are you insulting me? I'm like, well, there's nothing on your digital presence that could allow you to have internet leads, because you don't know what the hell you're doing. And so your only choice, by the way, my friend, which thank God you have this choice, is somebody thinks you do a good job and they refer you. And it's always amazing to me how belief always starts at the center of everything. I remember I used to give speeches to business owners, Scott, where we would talk about social media when it was first coming out. And I'll never forget this insurance agent. He was from Texas, or I can't remember where he was from, but maybe it was Buffalo or something. He goes, "You can't make money with Facebook ever." And I said, "Buddy, don't worry about it. You're in no danger of ever making money on Facebook." And I said, "Where's your agency?" And he said, "Where his agency is." I said, "Anybody else have an agency there?" They all raised their hand. I said, "Go kick his ass on social media." Because at the end of the day, and I apologize for my language. I normally don't.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, I am adult. We are adults here. But it was so funny because, so often if you're running a business and you're thinking about, growth, or you're thinking about finding leads or needs in your case, right? Mm-hmm. The very first step that comes to it is you have to believe that you have a viable business, an offering that somebody could use and benefit from.
Right.
Then if you do, you need to tell the world in as many places as you can afford to do it that you do these things. Now, that might be on the street corner. It might be with a sign and a guitar collecting tips to start. I watched a bass player that has over 1.4 million followers on YouTube. You want to know how he started? Playing bass on the street corner with tip jar. Because at the end of the day, if you want something bad enough, you got to fight for it.
Yeah.
So that must have been a very interesting thing. And now you're running a business where you're able to help small businesses find people that have their needs and match it to them. When you first had your first result from a business that signed up for it, got a need and got a piece of business from that, how did that make you feel as the person who started One Source Direct?
Actually, right now we're still in that launch phase, but we're building partnerships with several groups. For example, there's one by the name of Trep House, which deals with Black and Indigenous-owned businesses. And just knowing that will make it easier for their groups to connect. When you look at some of the minority groups that have such a social capital disadvantage,
sure.
We've been able to partner and working on partnerships with some of those groups. And Adam, your question is exactly what I've described as when I know I've succeeded. It's the first time I can see someone benefiting from the platform.
Yeah, so you're brand new in this. You're just getting this thing going. I love these stories, by the way, and I definitely want to talk to you more about that after the first break. We got to take a break right now from our corporate sponsor, Automate My Social. You're with Scott Lebeau and the handsome host with a red A on his shirt, Adam DeGrade. It's an amazing beginning of 2023. We're going to learn so much together. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Do you own a business? Do you have or need a social media presence? If you are like most businesses, you spend either no time or too much time and money on your social media strategy, spending thousands of dollars per month only to get mediocre and inconsistent results. This leads to frustration and, in some cases, sleepless nights. Introducing AutomateMySocial.com. Automate 90% of your social media and never have to think about it again. That's right. Automate your business's social media posting and strategy like forever. Automate the essentials and customize only what's needed. Save time, save money, and get better results with AutomateMySocial.com. Our patent-pending technology gives you the ability to automatically create your social post and distribute them immediately, like in seconds, across all your social media platforms. Stop the madness of paying someone to create, post, and manage your strategy, and let our software do the work, so you don't have to. Oh, and if you're an agency or social media manager, you too can let our software do all the work, and you can get all the credit. It will be our little secret. With AutomateMySocial.com, you can have it all. It's easy to use, never complains, and never asks for time off or more benefits. See this amazing new software application at AutomateMySocial.com. If you own a business or manage client social media and want to save time, energy, money, all while increasing your return on investment, then let's get this party started at AutomateMySocial.com.
And we're back with Scott and Adam, your handsome host. And Scott, I did notice that I was watching some of your videos, by the way. Is it prideful to say I'm a handsome host if I actually am handsome and I'm a host? I don't think so.
Okay, you talk about self-promotion. How do I like you said, you got to be in that street corner. You know, if you want something bad enough, you got to do it. So it's no different than what you said earlier.
That's right. You know, and I always should tell people, you know, I might be a 7 handsome-wise, but once you get to talk to me, I'm a 7 going north. And I'd much rather be a 7 going north than a 10 ripped and shredded going south when you open your mouth. And so,
you ever see the movie Shallow Hell?
Yeah, I know Shallow Hell. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that same mindset. Mindset is who you are, and that's what will ultimately drive everything. So,
and one of the things that I thought was cool, I was watching your demos because you're right now in the launch phase. You're getting ready to launch this, and you were just talking about disproportionately affected businesses. So you have minority-owned, you've got veteran-owned businesses. I know that's a big emphasis, and then female-owned businesses as well too. Right. So your portal is going to try to be a way in which individuals can to try to target to work with those individuals, much like Uber has done and other apps have done, you know, where they give you a discount for those things. There's a lot of debate around that, whether that's, appropriate or not. I'm not going to get into that on this podcast. As you know, I'm not political, although I am political. I just don't always tell people what I'm thinking. But at the end of the day, I think the concept of matching needs to leads is, regardless of who you're doing it for, is a huge benefit. How did you start this, and when did you start this, and who joined you to help you do it?
We've started back in, my first meeting was November 4th of 2014 with an attorney friend of mine. And the initial goal was to help community banks, because at that time, I think community banks in general, there are fewer banks in the U.S. than we had not seen since before the Great Depression. So knowing that banks were shrinking, and with technology, I knew that a lot of community banks would struggle. So we started off with that premise. And then I kind of went through some of the things I learned early on. I'm like, a community bank is really a small business. So why not just start to expand it? So we did that. Pre-COVID, we were getting ready to get things going. We were going to do a soft Vegas launch, and that kind of shut things down as people worried about where their revenue is going to come from. So we went back to the drawing board, kind of enhanced a few things, and now we're getting ready. But it literally, for me personally, came out of frustration. I mean, in my various roles at different jobs, I've always had to, research and look for things. Well, I got frustrated. I'm probably one of the, less than 10% that go to page 2 of an internet search. So, but then you start getting spam, you start getting, fraudulent websites, and all this other stuff. And that just became very frustrating.
Yeah. So you wanted to kind of figure out a way that you could, connect the community to the people that they need in their local market. Right. So it's kind of like a new town center is what you're trying to build. Did you partner with anybody to help you with this, or has this been something you've been funding and working on yourself part-time?
About 20 to 30 hours a week above my day job. But it's usually been like friends and family that help me with this. I've been able to partner with some very good developers. And again, it's just the evolution of things just continually changes. In fact, we already have 7 enhancements built out, but we're not going to roll any of those out until we get some experience and some usage on the site. And then we're going to use our early adopters to kind of serve as my board of directors.
That's great.
Because I'd rather use them than, and no disrespect to board of directors, especially being in banking. But the fact that they're the ones that can tell me more what we need to do and how we need to do it. And I've already worked with a development company that has my concepts already there. It's just want to figure out how I can make this better, faster, and stronger.
I love the idea. So first of all, a few things for the watchers and listeners. Number one, just because you currently have a job doesn't mean you can't be building your dream on the side. I think that's very, 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 very important for people to understand. And so you've been working on this for, my gosh, almost 8 years at this point in time.
Over 8 years, yeah.
Over 8 years, and you're getting ready to launch now. It's very fulfilling. It's very exciting. It truly is a David versus Goliath story. And I think the other thing is that you don't give up on your dreams, right? And you mentioned something that's fascinating. Your idea behind a board of directors is something that I've always done in all my businesses. So when I go into a business, Scott, in a vertical, so to speak, and I start to learn that industry, because we've recently now shifted our focus to lawyers, insurance agents again, and I'm also working with financial planners and CPAs, estate planners, things like that. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be forming what is called an advisory panel. So the advisory panel will be of our top, call it 20, 25 clients, and they will be an intimate part of not only the creation of what we do going forward, but how we can perfect what we currently have built in working and serving that industry better. And to your point, a board of directors comes in once know your market, got your market share, and you really, now you're looking for other avenues to grow. But it's smart for you to have your advisors be your early adopters, because they get buy-in, and more importantly, you can shape your offering and your tools to the needs of your very first adopters, and it makes all the difference in the world. Where did you learn that from?
I think part of it came from something one of my friends said to me early on. He said, Scott, this will eventually go somewhere where you least didn't expect it. And I think that has really helped whenever I sat down with a developer, whenever I sat down with a marketing person. I have flat told them, I said, to me, I have an idea. I cannot develop, other than I know binary code is ones and zeros. That's about the extent of my coding experience. But it's always been for me a whiteboard, in terms of being open-minded. The discussions that we had when we met with developers, we met with marketing people, we met with small business owners, and we sit in a conference room and talk about the development of it. The conversations get kind of uncomfortable maybe for some, because you're talking about why a business failed, and then the developers were all very proactive. Okay, how can we do this to help? And so I think just being able to respect everybody in that room and get them to talk openly has kind of guided us to where we are. And that's just something that I felt that I wanted to keep going forward, because, even when we get through the 7 enhancements, I don't see that that's where we're going to stop. Yeah, I think that the continued evolution of what we've built is very critical to keeping it successful.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, what other?
By the way, just to give you a little insight, I build software for a living.
Okay.
And I work with businesses all the time. There's no such thing as 7 enhancements and stop. It's by the end, when this thing finds its final home that I'm building, it'll have duct tape, shrink wrap, and whatever it takes, super glue, to hold it together. So as the crane's picking up the cement of nonsense that's been created, it'll all make sense and be stuck together. So hold on, Scott. We're going to take another quick break from another sponsor. When we come back, we're going to continue our discussion. Hang on. We'll be right back. Here it is. Another great message. Enjoy.
At ISU RMAC Agency, we want to be your one responsible source for all of your insurance needs. From a rocket engineer in California to several hospitals in Illinois, our personal lines team specializes in hard-to-place risks and high-net-worth clientele. With 2 locations and 20-plus agents, we can write in all 50 states to better serve our clients with needs in multiple states. Family-owned and operated since 1962, and 4 generations carrying on the tradition of insurance. Celebrating our 60th year in the industry, we are truly proud of where we have come from and where we are going. With over 300 carriers nationwide, our agency can offer individuals and businesses more choices and better prices. ISU RMAC brings a wide variety of solutions to the table. For more information, visit us online at www.isu-rmac.com.
And we're back with Adam and Scott, and it's our final segment here on the David versus Goliath podcast. I love startups. I love it because I'm going to put on my calendar this date, and I'm going to invite you back in 24 months. We're going to see if you've gone anywhere, and I like that because at the end of the day, we all need to have a little personal pressure in our lives to get things to go to the next area, right? And by you coming on this podcast now and saying, hey, this is going to be a real thing. And people can check it out at onesourcedirect.net. So you can see what Scott has been working on. So you can get an idea. And if you're a small micro business, and you're a small minority business or veteran owned or female owned, and you're looking for some help, go register there on the site and take a look for Scott. And no, I don't get paid to do this. And no, Scott did not pay to be on this. And no, I'm not a paid endorser. And no, am I saying this damn thing works? But at the end of the day, it's important to know that there's people out there that have your back. They truly want you, the David, to slay that giant Goliath. And, how many people are currently on the team right now that are working, whether they're contracted or employees right now with you, are working on the project?
About 6 or 7, kind of, some of them kind of come in and out. And, but again, I think just the feedback and that they're able to give. And like I said, we've always had, a very open relationship. In fact, as a manager, I've always been one of those that said, work with me, not for me. And I really try to carry that from my leadership into this whole concept and idea. And as this gets going, I've told them, I said, I have people around me that can handle the accounting, the development, the marketing, and all these different things. And, the operations. I said, my job is going to be having conversations at them like you and I have right now. And that's what I enjoy. I mean, I enjoy sitting down with the business owner and saying, how can I make this better? And what do you like? What don't you like? And, we're looking at 2 more possible tabs on the website. One is possibly for startups. We thought about making this site available, maybe free for 3 months for a startup, just to get them up and coming. Because
you definitely want to explore a freemium version.
And as part of our initial offering, we're going to offer up like 20 business days or 28 regular days free, so people can try it. So we will do something like that. But again, just to sit down and talk with business owners, and because the article I was in the Cal Business Journal was talked about, outside in engineering. I said, I worked in banking most of my life, and that's inside out. So you develop programs or buy programs and you fit your customers into those, I feel, in a lot of cases. Where this is something is where I want those people to tell me how to build it, and then we'll design it because it's truly their platform. It's not mine.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm enjoying this, and my kids always make fun of me because I go anywhere and can talk to anyone. But I think that's how you learn,
That is totally how you learn. And you said something interesting, too, that I think a lot of people miss. And a lot of entrepreneurs I know and business leaders and managers especially, I find that when you use language like this person works for me versus I work alongside this person,
right, makes
a huge difference. And I know, people always talk about the, semantic of words, but a good friend of mine, Rush Limbaugh, who has since passed on, always used to say that words mean things. And words absolutely mean things. And so when I try to introduce my coworkers, I would always say, and hey, this is Joe Amaral. He's my partner. This is Tim Sawyer. We work together. We work alongside of. Our team works with us. And I've always felt like if I had this us versus them mentality in the workplace, it's usually adversarial and it's not very encouraging. But if you can get people alongside of you, you can have a huge effect. And I even train my sales guys this too, Scott. When you're selling at somebody versus selling alongside of somebody. So in other words, you take the prospect and you sit with them. It's a huge difference because one, the blockages are coming up. And the other, you're able to be there and be with them and look at it from their perspective, and it makes all the difference in the world. They say walk a day in somebody's shoes, you'll know why they are who they are. And that's kind of what I love about what you're doing with One Source Direct, is you're trying to help these small businesses and you're walking alongside of them. Yeah,
it is so much fun for me to learn. I mean, I seriously do not know where this ends up, but I'm, like I tell people, I said, the 3 or 4 days that they don't see me a week doesn't mean that I'm going to be sitting on a golf course, which I don't mind playing, but I cannot do it 5 days a week. It'll be sitting down, finding a coffee shop, talking to that owner, maybe, strolling down, walking into an accountant, walking into an, insurance agent. Maybe I'll find the one that you were talking about earlier. But
if you do, he's probably like this. What are you doing?
Yes.
I guarantee that's good. That little clip right there is going to end up on the trailer before this episode of me going. Guaranteed. You watch my editor is going to absolutely do that. Scott. It takes a lot of courage to do what you're doing, and I give you a lot of credit.
Thank you.
Did you get that from your work experience? Is it something you saw in your parents or a loved one or somebody that helped you? Where did you find the courage to start this project, and now you're getting ready to fulfill it?
couple things I think led to this. First, my mom was 83 when she passed away almost 2 years ago. At 83, she worked 25 to 30 hours a week at a parish office. She ran St. Vincent de Paul and the food pantry at the parish as well. At 83.
St. Vincent de Paul in Rhode Island?
No, this one is in Wisconsin.
Oh.
But it's just a local office. But so she did all of that. And, part of it too is when I started this, I started later in life. So we have two children. One is 12 now, one is 18. And I think as I got more into this, I wanted to show them, to your point earlier, about it doesn't matter how old you are, first of all. If you find something that you really do enjoy, just chase it and go after it. And also the perseverance to weather whatever's happened to the economy over the last 8 years, and just, know that we're at a point now where we're ready to go and we're ready to help. So
I love it. The fact that your mom, it's funny you say that. I watched my dad. He was a disc jockey on radio for well over 30 years. I watched him get up every day, 3:30 in the morning, go do his morning shift, and then come home, prepare for the next day, and then go do it again. He would go in during blizzard. So if a blizzard was coming, he would say, "Kids, I love you. I'll see you after the blizzard." And he would go a day before the blizzard showed up, move in and sleep in a sleeping bag on the floor because he was so committed to his job. He's now in the Rhode Island Radio Hall of Fame, along with my grandfather as well too. And so just like you, Scott, I have great people that I've watched work and have great work ethic all their lives, and it's amazing. Well, we wish you, here at David versus Goliath, we wish you much success. How can people find you personally if they're interested to learn more and how they can help you?
They can contact me at scott@onesourcedirect.net, or they can call me at 414-238-3340.
Scotty Too Hottie from onesourcedirect.net. I wish you absolutely the best. I hope that your idea crushes it. And then I'm going to have you back on in a couple of years. We'll see how you're doing. And I'll be watching from a distance now.
Well, hopefully, Adam, I'll be a sponsor of yours within the 24-month window. So that we'll be good there. How's that?
That sounds like a plan. I really appreciate it. This has been another amazing episode of the David versus Goliath podcast. Where else can you learn about people's lives and hear about things that impact them to inspire you, educate you, and to activate you in your business? I'm Adam DeGrade. We'll see you next week. Have an awesome day.